computer, yeah. So you might want to, you know, around privacy and stuff, if you want to keep your camera off, that's absolutely fine. I'm recording tonight because lots of people have sent questions in, so I'm going to put this video up into the Facebook group tomorrow. So if you've come and you've sent a question in, then we are going to cover it tonight. But if you've come and you've got a question to ask, then please feel free to put it in the chat. So Kirsty and I are going to take it in turns, and then we'll keep an eye on the chat. Do we need to do an intro? We don't need to do an intro.
I don't think so, do we?
No, everybody knows who we are. So thank you for joining us. And I am going to ask Kirsty a question, and then she's going to ask me a question. So Kirsty.
Yes, Hannah.
Tell us, a couple of people asked around fertility breakfast, like what is a good breakfast to have for fertility? Is it a bowl of Rice Krispies or not?
Wouldn't that be dreamy if it was? Or Frosties, but no, really less of the sugar. Protein is the same thing I always say, and I wish I could say something more exciting. You have to build your breakfast around protein. You want eggs, really. If you don't eat eggs, you could think, well, I think it's good to think savoury for breakfast. Like it doesn't need to be a breakfast food. You could have some chicken or some fish or eggs. A good egg muffins I quite like making, where you can put in butternut squash or feta if you eat feta, and peas, you know, just that sort of thing. They can be eaten on the go. Something I've been doing lately to get protein into like a veggie breakfast is mashing up edamame beans with avocado.
Yeah.
That's quite a nice way of increasing, because edamame beans are a really good source of protein. Stick a poached egg on the top of there and got a very bougie breakfast. Oats, chia seeds, but you want a protein source really the size of your palm.
Oh, that's a good reference.
Yes.
Because it's so hard when people say protein, you're like, well, yeah, but what does that mean?
Yeah, and you do, and it's hard. And I think protein for breakfast is the thing that people struggle the most with. But you really do, like, it's the structural building blocks of every single cell in our body. We need it. It's really important, because that includes the eggs and the sperm, obviously. So it is really important. So
sorry, I was just going to say, what about protein powders? Where do you sit with those?
I think people get quite. Some people don't like them and say you should do it via food, which I think is, I think probably you should. But if you can't, or you're not a breakfast person, and you're really not a breakfast person, or you're in a rush, I think they do have a place. But I think you want to get like quite a good, clean vegetarian source. So Nuzest do quite a good one, Nuzest. It's not particularly cheap, but it is nice and it's clean, and it's, you know, get the vanilla one. You can put loads of blueberries, bit of peanut butter, you know, you can throw loads of things in it, spinach. And Sun Warrior do quite a nice one. So I think they have a place. I think it's really hard to get protein in, so I think they do have a place. But the cleanest one you can get ideally.
Will you put those up in the Facebook group tomorrow?
Yeah, let me make a note. For the protein powder specifically. I think also I might have put some breakfasts in there at some point. I'll see if I can find them, and maybe we can pin them or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And the other question is around, just like sort of staying on the theme of breakfast, I guess, a bit, is around full fat dairy or not.
Dairy is there are so many different schools of thought on this, so many, and generally for fertility, full fat dairy, I guess, is probably considered sort of the best, but it's quite rich. A lot of people aren't used to full fat dairy, I don't think. Now it can be quite creamy, isn't it? So therefore semi-skimmed is good, I guess. It's, you know, that's probably your best middle ground. Dairy is difficult. You shouldn't I don't think you should avoid it unless you have to. I don't think you should exclude food groups necessarily unless they're disagreeing with you. And you can work with somebody to help you decide whether it is actually a dairy intolerance. And there was I managed to find one study, or I have found one study, that shows that low fat dairy may improve sperm parameters in some men. but it was quite a small study. It was the only one I've really found. And, you know, you've got to look at so many other different factors there that could, you know, you don't know what's going on in their lifestyle. These, it's very difficult conditions to control for a research.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah.
And do you think the full fat dairy thing, because I know there's a clinic in London where they recommend people drink like pints of milk.
Yes, I've heard, But
Yeah.
is that still a thing? I thought that was a bit old school.
I thought it was quite old school, but I'd had somebody in clinic recently who had been told that. And is that because of the protein in the dairy, do you think?
Yeah, I think it must be. To be honest, I haven't come across anyone doing that for a very long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that did used to be quite common. But and I think it is. I mean, it is a good protein source, and but I mean, that's a lot of drinking milk, isn't it?
And where do you think? Sorry, I've gone completely off tangent now. I'm just thinking about this, you know, from like organic dairy versus non-organic dairy, because there's also a lot of chat around the hormones in dairy, isn't there?
There is,
often scared away from it because of that reason. Do you think if you're going to have dairy, having organic is the best? Or you
I do think if you're going to have dairy, organic is best. I do, but I think that with everything. But I also think that cost is a factor, and organic is a lot more expensive. And you know, it's very easy for people to go, oh no, you must eat organic, but actually it is very expensive. So I think if you can afford it, great. But if you can't, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
there's other things that are, you know, to consider.
Yeah.
Do you fancy a question?
I fancy a question, yes.
Do you fancy a question? How about how to get rid of candida?
Yes.
Do you know about these things?
Yes, and it's a good question, and it's an important thing to address if you're trying to conceive, because it can be a barrier. Because if you've got candida, and if it is candida, not BV, because often the two get mixed up, then it can change the pH of your vagina, and it can make it literally a hostile environment. So it's really important to address. Also, it's really bloody uncomfortable. So if you've got if it comes back time and time again, my go-to is to do the in vivo test, which is not cheap. It's £199, and you need to have an appointment with somebody as a follow-up to talk you through the results and to talk you through what protocol you need to be on to treat it. But I think if it's long-term, I think it's a really good way to get to the bottom of what's happening. I'd say if you are not able to go down that route, then at a bare minimum, I would look at either in vivo products. So this is the company that we work with, who are specialists in vaginal health and gut health. I would look at their products that are specifically for thrush. So you can, but again, you have to do that through a practitioner. So you might want to book in with one of us. If you can't do that, then use Canis Flor is a really good product as well. That's that you can buy off the shelf. It's like Canistan, the company that make the cream for treating thrush. They now do a vaginal probiotic, and I think I'm right in saying it's like a week's course. And I think one of the courses is you take it vaginally. So I would definitely recommend taking a probiotic, the in vivo one or the Canis Flor one, vaginally when you've got symptoms, because what is highly likely happening is that you've got an imbalance of the good bacteria. So you want lots and lots of Lactobacillus crispatus, which is a hard thing to say at 70.
It is, yeah.
When you've been in clinic all day. But you want high levels of that, because high levels of that have been shown to be linked to good pregnancy outcomes. So it's really important that you sort of populate the vaginal microbiome with the good stuff, and that often crowds out the bad bacteria, so you've got balance and homeostasis. So that's it in a very simple term. But if it's chronic, you need to get it investigated, and there are a couple of routes that you can try.
Yeah, it's definitely worth doing. And also one thing is candida thrives off of sugar.
Yes.
So really cutting back your sugar intake is going to help.
Actually that's a really good point as well, isn't it? So looking at as well as looking at the actual vaginal environment, you're looking at the external. So yes, reducing sugar, reducing yeast products can be helpful for some people. And cloth underwear, making sure you're wearing cotton underwear, making sure you're not using soaps, making sure you're getting lots of kind of aerobic air around the vulva area. really, really important just to kind of stabilize it as well. And also look at lifestyle. You know, if you're smoking and drinking, again, you're more likely to be suffering. So it's a kind of full body approach, I think, is how you get to the bottom of it. But you absolutely can get to the bottom of it. You know, it can be done. So definitely worth addressing.
It's a persistent little bugger though, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's you know, it's so common and it's so badly treated. It's so, women put up with it for years and years and years and years and years and never, you know, get it sorted. And quite frankly, Kirsty, I'm going to change that.
Are you going to change that? Well, I'll help.
When I finish my university course, I'm going to change that, because
you're going to change that. Right, you do that.
Yeah. Next one, is that me or you?
Well, it's a sort of one that I think we can probably both answer, because it's on adrenal fatigue.
Yes. So the question is around, how common is adrenal fatigue? And if you think you have it, how can you combat it? Do you want to go first? Do you want to talk on it first?
Well, I think you're probably better placed to talk about the sort of effect that you have on it and the ways that I guess you can do. So it's effectively, in a way, like burnout, isn't it? It's a collective. Adrenal fatigue is not particularly, it's not like medically, they're not having it. They're not, a bit controversial.
Not recognised, is it?
Not recognised, no, they're refusing. But it is definitely something I think I'm seeing more and more. And I would, you know, particularly over COVID, when everyone's been doing and it's carrying on now. And it's a collection of symptoms, really, isn't it? It's various, you know, different. I'm trying to think what all the symptoms are now, but like low mood, fatigue, potential. You know, it can potentially lead to autoimmune. There's, you know, there's so many different things. But I think there's certain ways you can tell maybe that you've got it with your cycle.
When I see it in clinic, I see people who come in who are, the classic thing that I see is people come in and they cannot get out of bed in the morning. Yeah. So they really struggle to wake up in the morning, and they really have to, like, you know, drink coffee or tea. You know, they really need a boost to get them up and out. And then what happens is they're like running on like adrenaline for the day. And then they get into bed at night and they can't go to sleep. They're tired and they're wired. And that is a classic case of, like, I think adrenal fatigue is often linked to cortisol levels, because I think your adrenals produce your cortisol.
They do, Hannah, yes, that is correct.
And it's like your cortisol, a bit like your melatonin, should have like, it's part of your circadian rhythm. Yeah. So you should have nice high levels of cortisol in the morning, and that is literally what gets you up and out of bed. And then through the day, they should slowly decline. And then what should happen is that your melatonin levels should start to rise, so that you then are able to fall asleep. Yeah. And I think what happens is it gets switched over. So there's no cortisol in the morning, so there's no get up and go. And then your cortisol starts to peak in the evening, and it interferes with your production of melatonin. And so what you have is you have this cortisol over production, and you can't sleep. And
also, I think people mix that with the fact that because they're sleepy in the morning, they then run on caffeine and sugar, and that doesn't help, because then you're just prolonging that.
Yeah, and you're in a cycle. And I think it is often, you know, if you're busy, if you're on the go, if you've kind of had a lot of stress in your life, you know, it's basically a lot of people in London is what I see. That is,
it's chronic stress, isn't it? It's effectively that. It's just chronic stress. Your adrenal glands are continuously producing cortisol and adrenaline, and they're not able to keep up. Yeah. And also, I think from a fertility point of view, is it can really kill your sex drive as well.
Yeah, and when I think people have got it, that I notice that they also have lots of other weird symptoms that they can't get to the bottom of. So like pain, like achy joints. They'll get headaches, or they'll get a foggy head, you know, like
brain fog, definitely.
And they just can't quite work out what it is that is wrong. And you can do a test for it, can't you? You can do, is it the cortisol awakening test with the Dutch? I think, well, there are other people that do it now. I think Dutch are one of the Dutch tests, that one of the people that do it, but I think you can do it with Medichecks as well and things now. Can you?
I think you can. I'm sure I saw it the other day. I was looking for something, but it also massively, sort of from a recovery point of view, it's a long slog. I think. Yeah. It's you know, you've got to put the work in to undo a long time of kind of like you've got to teach your body how to feel safe again, effectively, and like it's not under threat.
That is, and that's the thing that we see in clinic, is that it's about talking to people and sort of trying to get people to understand the need to rest, like the need to stop. And rest is an interesting thing, isn't it? Because people who've got adrenal fatigue and people who haven't find it difficult to rest. Like, what do I mean by rest? I'm talking like just really chilling out, not being on your phone and on the TV. You know, I'm talking, you know, I hate saying when people go for a walk in the countryside. I'm like, it's not that simple, is it?
It's not, no.
It's a bit like a while ago, people used to go have a bath. I'd be like, what?
Yeah, I can sit in the bath and think about all the things I still have to do.
Exactly. But I think it's about like really addressing your lifestyle issues, isn't it? Really looking at what is going on there. And sometimes that is, you know, it involves, you know, talking to a therapist, it involves talking to your family. You know, it's not something that's easy, and we're not sitting there going, oh, it's really easy, you just need to, you know,
it's not,
but
it's pretty hard. Also, you've got to, it's probably going to get harder before it gets easier, because you've got to go through the process of assessing what's making things work and what's not making things work, what's making things harder, and what you need to get rid of. And sometimes that's really hard. But
I would say definitely that it is a thing, you know, even though I guess Western doctors might not necessarily agree with what we're saying, or they might do, but, you know, it's in our world, it's very, very apparent, and it's definitely a thing, and it can be addressed. So
yeah, definitely. But the constant release of cortisol and adrenaline from your adrenal glands effectively is so depleting of various nutrients. Like, you really, so it, from a nutritional point of view, you could be having vitamin C, zinc, magnesium, trying to think what else, B6 I think is particularly important. Like, there are quite a few nutrients that would get really depleted, that you could like focus on trying to, you know, include in your diet, but you know, which you would include with a sort of very healthy whole food approach. But yeah, those particular nutrients get quite depleted. And also you need to retrain your body to sleep, get your circadian rhythm. So getting outside and seeing morning light first thing can be really helpful. Getting the sunlight in your eyes can be really good for like resetting your body.
They talk about that a lot, don't they?
They do.
You need a dog for that.
Or two, although one of mine doesn't have to go through all. Okay, next question. Where are we?
I've just finished a course of antibiotics. How can I help the good bacteria?
Right, so there are two things to say on this. It sort of depends what the antibiotics were for. So if it was to get rid of something like BV or something that was down in the vaginal area, then I would always go for an in vivo FemV type product. But if you're just on a course of antibiotics for general health, or, you know, for something else, then Optibac every day max, there is an option. And they also do a range that you can have whilst you're on antibiotics as well, which is quite useful. But definitely Optibac are a good one for general health. After antibiotics.
And would you recommend Impril for conception, to help aid conception?
Well, I know that IVF clinics recommend Impril quite a lot. I personally think you can do better. There are better fertility supplements out there that have more. There's not a huge amount in Impril. And when I tried to find the other things that are in Impril, like what the cases are made of, and what the excipients are, and all that sort of the bulking agents, I couldn't really find it, which I don't think is hugely helpful. So I think maybe Wild Nutrition, G&G vitamins, like there are other sources, there are other ones that are slightly better. But you know, if you've been advised by your IVF clinic, then I would follow their advice, because they're
a lot of IVF clinics recommend them, don't they, as the standard?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I don't know why, because I think there is better, but
I guess because they're an all-rounder, and it's one tablet, you know, it's one rather than taking out a whole range of things. So that may be why.
It might be. Okay.
Do you want to ask me?
Oh yeah, I forgot we were doing that. I got so involved. Yes, thoughts on being put on the, oh, hold on, I've just lost it. Thoughts on being put on the pill for a bad PMS after having a baby?
Good question. Good question. I don't know. Well, I do know. I think it's, if your PMS is really, really, really bad and going on the pill has helped, then I would say carry on, because, you know, postnatal depression or postnatal issues and PMS is difficult. And so if that is working for you, then absolutely give it a try. If I would also say, though, that if you're not keen to be on the pill and that's not what you want to do, I'd say there are a number of lifestyle factors that you can look at. So, you know, Katie and I talk about this a lot in the podcast around ways to support your hormones and ways to support hormone balance. So first off, I'd recommend tracking your cycle, so you're really clear on when your PMS phase is going to be, so that you can sort of take account of that in terms of lifestyle, in terms of, you know, A, telling people, B, making sure you're not doing things that really trigger you, C, you're going to sleep early, D, you're really, really looking after yourself and you're taking help and support from other people. And I'm not at all saying that they are the only things, but I'm saying they're part of like a bigger picture of things that can help. Yeah. I would definitely say look at your diet, and going back to the beginning, talking about lots and lots of protein can really, really help support a more balanced menstrual cycle and less kind of, it's the ebb and flow often for people in the second half of the menstrual cycle of progesterone, either too much of it or progesterone being too low. And it's often when progesterone is too low that it can kind of cause the anxiety or the depression. So supporting your hormones with good protein is also really important. Avoiding things like coffee, alcohol, sugar, you know, the things that can really send your hormones crazy. And also regulating your blood sugar as well, you know, trying to keep your insulin levels as level as possible is also going to really help with that good hormone production. And also your mood, you know, if your insulin levels are going up and down, which they're more prone to do in the second half of your menstrual cycle, because if you lose that insulin sensitivity, then that can really exacerbate those feelings of kind of like crashing and tiredness and all of those things that can exacerbate it. So, and supplement, you know, supporting with supplements. Have you got any, like, what are the good ones? Is it like the B vitamins, Kirsty, for the HPA?
Yeah, B vitamins are good. Magnesium, brilliant. Magnesium at night as well to sort of help with your sleep. Yeah. One thing I would also add to what you've just said is making sure that you're eating plenty of fibre and going to the toilet every day, going for a poo every day. Because if you want to get rid of, once you've produced estrogen, you then need, and other hormones, you then want to get it out, because that can then add to the, you know, the balance in between, or the unbalance between progesterone and estrogen. Estrogen. I'm now can't speak.
I knew what you
thanks. But yeah, there are good. Yeah, I think a general good multi. B vitamins, yes, very good for sort of mental health type issues. Yeah, so definitely.
And somebody else has also asked about, is there anything I can do to help regulate my cycles after coming off the pill? I would say that all of those things can also apply to that question as well. So, you know, it's really looking at, you know, your guts, making sure your gut's working well, taking a good probiotic once you come off the pill. But
you know, go back to basics. I think when you're coming off the pill, make sure you're getting all your basics right.
Yeah, but I would say that, you know, it's difficult because, you know, bad PMS can be so debilitating that, and if the pill is helping, sometimes people actually go on antidepressants for the second half of the menstrual cycle, and some people are really reluctant to do that. You know, I totally understand, but if it helps, then, you know, it's sort of, it's good to keep everything on the table. But there are lots of other things to try, and it might be that you want to try them while you're on the pill, and then, you know, come off and see whether, you know, once you've got your lifestyle sorted, whether that helps sort of soften the blow a little bit. So
I also think that the pill is, as like you're saying, definitely has its place, but it does deplete certain nutrients as well. So it's really important to make sure you're taking a really good multivitamin whilst you're on the pill.
Yeah. And a probiotic as well, do you think?
That's not going to hurt. You can never go wrong with a probiotic.
No.
Never.
So Following on from Luke, because we were talking about the luteal phase, this is a question that we get asked a lot, is about low progesterone in the luteal phase. Like, can nutrition help increase low progesterone?
Well, then no one thing is going to increase progesterone. It's just that, but a culmination of various different foods. Well, you know, like all the things we've spoken about before, a good diet with plenty of fiber, plenty of protein. There are certain nutrients, vitamin C will help, vitamin B5 or B6, I'm going to double check that, L-arginine, things along those lines, they will help support progesterone. Yellow foods, so things with beta carotene in support the corpus luteum, and they'll say therefore, you know, the production of progesterone. But no one thing is going to, just a healthy, balanced diet.
And actually, Kirsty, Katie and I have just recorded the podcast all about the luteal phase and supporting progesterone in the luteal phase. And actually, one of the things that we talk about is this idea that, you know, your second half of your menstrual cycle is very much a reflection of the first half of your menstrual cycle. So if you have not had good follicular development in that first half, so if you've not, you know, slept well, if you've not had good nutrients, if you've not, like, you know, reduced your stress, you know, or any of those kind of lifestyle things, then that can mean that that follicle that has released the egg is not good enough quality to sustain a good amount of progesterone in the second half of your menstrual cycle. So sometimes, like, just focusing on progesterone is kind of like shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted, is the phrase that I try to find.
That's what but you do, you have to look at the whole month, don't you? You can't, or your whole body. It's your whole everything. It's more a holistic approach rather than one. I mean, I wish there was a food that I could say to this.
I wish they'd just prescribe progesterone to everybody who was concerned about it.
We did not have so many issues here.
I genuinely, hand on heart, feel like a lot of people would benefit from a prescription of progesterone, and it would not cost a lot of money. There wouldn't be many side effects, and it would save lots of struggles. I genuinely believe that, but I'll save that for another day. Top nutrition for the 2-week wait. I guess it's the same, isn't it?
It's the same. It's like I feel really like boring going on and about it, but it really is. Get your basics right. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water, lots of protein, lots of fiber. Eat the rainbow, plenty of veg, nuts, seeds. Well, you know, just think about every meal as an opportunity to increase your nutrient intake. So, you know, every time you eat, look at your plate and think, right, I've got my protein source. What else can I add to this? So complex carbohydrates, half a plate of veg, and really just focus around that. Drink plenty of water, and don't worry about it in the like, don't become obsessed by it. It's basically what I'm trying to say in the nicest possible way. That, like, it's not the end of the world if you eat a load of sugar. It's not going to make any difference. You know, it's not ultimately not going to cause any direct issues. I wouldn't have said. So I think it's all about looking after yourself.
Yes, and I'm going to do a little segue plug just at that point.
Oh yes, of course.
The 2-week wait course that we've got, which is actually all there about managing your mind, because actually managing how you're feeling and thinking is the only thing, apart from, I guess, what you eat, you have control of when you're in the 2-week wait. It's about managing what you're doing, what you're where your thoughts are taking you, and I guess how you're looking after yourself. And that's what the course is there for, because it is a really shitty, tough time. So that is
you need to calm your mind for sure.
Exactly. I would say the mind stuff is the most important thing. And I'm not saying that because it's going to be the thing that makes the outcome successful or not. I'm saying that because it, you know, every single time you're in a 2-week wait, it's like trauma. And so finding coping strategies to help you through that trauma is a really important part of getting through it. And, you know, I think if you need to have a packet of biscuits, if that helps, that is all right, isn't it? It's not going to be a thing that impacts the outcome.
And I think it's one of those things that you need to, there's like, you can control the controllables. There's so much that you can't control. You're frozen.
Oh,
I've lost you.
oh,
Oh, hello, are you there?
yeah, I'm
You
here.
back?
Can you see me?
Hello. Yeah, I couldn't, you're frozen. And I couldn't work out whether anyone could hear me, and I was just wittering on.
No,
And then
no, I can hear you.
just sat really still. Yeah, I think there's so much out of, nutrition's quite a good thing to focus on if it's taken your mind off of things and you're doing it in like a sensible way. But I think the mental health stuff, that, like you say, is probably more important, if I'm honest. Because
we've got a question that's come in through the chat, Kirsty.
Yes. Okay.
If you're a veg, you want to take this one. If you're a vegetarian, what are the important things to consider when thinking about being ready to try to conceive?
So you need to really look at your protein sources. This is quite a tricky one, because vegetarian protein is not sort of whole proteins as such. So you need to really look at making sure you're eating a very wide variety of proteins. So your legumes, it'd be great if you ate eggs. Do you eat eggs? Please eat eggs. Please eat eggs. But if you don't, you're at fish, maybe. Pardon?
Because vegetarian, not vegan. So
yeah, so hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you really need to think about your your protein sources, I think, are the main things. Avoid, it's really easy, I think, when you're veggie, and I know, because I was one for a short time once, to reach for processed foods as well. So don't, avoid processed foods. Make sure you are still eating plenty of veg. And I think that's
yes,
I mean, it's
yes to eggs.
Yes to eggs. There you go. Eat your eggs. Eat plenty of eggs, and fish. If you eat fish as well, that's another good protein source. But I think that's something you really have to watch. And also your levels, your B vitamins, like vitamin B12 and things, is only available really via animal sources. So you need to really watch that you're getting enough B vitamins as well. You might need to consider a supplement and maybe monitor your iron levels a bit more closely. That's something else to consider. You might not your iron stores might not be as high. I think it's perfectly fine. You can do it. It's absolutely fine, but you just have to be slightly more aware of protein, B vitamins, iron stores, that kind of thing.
Great. I am going to go on to another question. I'm going to come back to that one in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to the other question in the group. I just want to just do the one, because someone's asked about foods to boost progesterone, but I feel like we've covered that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Someone's asked about
chronic health conditions that may be causing conception issues. Can you see that one?
Yeah. Oh, my internet connection's.
Are you freezing, or I'm going to just check my router?
It's me. It's me.
It's you.
Yeah, I've just got a message that my connection's unstable.
Oh, right, okay.
Am I back again?
No, you're fine. You're just a bit crackly.
All right, okay.
Don't worry, crack on.
Do you want to say the question again in case it was missed?
Yeah, of course. Can you help with chronic health conditions that may be causing conception issues?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say that it's, obviously we don't have any details, so it's difficult to really say. But I would say if you've got chronic underlying health conditions, I would recommend looking at all the lifestyle bits of advice and information that we talk about all the time, because I'm not saying in any way that they will stop your chronic health condition, but I'm saying that if you can support your sleep, your digestion, exercise, stress, and nutrition, they are all going to support you and support your fertility, because in many ways fertility and health are completely linked together. I really believe that whenever we talk about fertility, we're really talking about health, because people don't, they talk about a diet for fertility. Well, actually it's just a diet for health, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah. This is why I find these, like, sometimes I feel like I'm banging the same, like I'm constantly saying the same thing, but it is that approach, isn't it? You really do need to focus on all those. There's no one thing that's going to fix anything. It's the whole approach that you're going to take, including lifestyle.
Yeah. And I would say that if you've got a chronic condition as well, that going somewhere to have support. So like, let's say, for example, if you came for acupuncture or you came for reflexology, coming somewhere really nice, because it is here, I'm not going to lie, and having, you know, somebody look after you, someone spend some time with you, have a really nice relaxing treatment, whether it's acupuncture or massage. Again, I'm not saying that's going to like solve all your problems, but it's going to really help reduce your stress. It's going to really help put your body in that kind of nice sympathetic nervous system state where you're relaxed and the kind of fight and flight is switched off and you're in the rest and digest. And when you're in the rest and digest, you're reducing inflammation, which really helps with that kind of like chronic underlying condition. So, you know, that's kind of like, it's very general, but I think actually that applies to most things that we see in clinic.
Yeah, and also I think it's really good to work with someone who's got the time and the inclination, because I know that obviously the NHS and the GPs are all very hectic and busy at the moment, who's got the time and the inclination and the want to really help and understand what you're going through. So I think that's obviously a benefit to see some people like ourselves who, you know, who will do the research and help support you in the best possible way.
And that is an interesting thing, isn't it? Because what is interesting is if you've got like, let's say, for example, I have people in my clinic who've got migraines, okay, chronic migraines. And what always amazes me is that when they are in, you know, when they've been for treatment, nobody has ever asked them about their lifestyle. Like, what time do you go to bed? What do you eat? Do you have breakfast? How much? I mean, I guess they do ask about coffee and water because they're obvious triggers. But in terms of like that holistic approach, like, are you under a lot of stress? You know, any childhood trauma, and, you know, that kind of information, that wider lens, rather than just focus on like the condition that brought that person for, is about how you get the best possible outcome, I think, because just addressing a migraine is actually not going.
Well, it's just putting a plaster over it.
Yeah,
it's just putting a plaster over the situation. It's not even trying to understand the root cause, which, you know, they don't, you know, generally the medical profession do not have time for. Whereas
and also it's not the system of medicine is not, and I'm not criticizing it at all, because it is amazing for many things, but in, you know, for those kind of, in those situations, the medical system is very much, they work in silos of, you know, I'm a digestive specialist, but the digestive specialist has no understanding of mental health, and yet we know that there is a massive,
so linked, so linked.
So like, you know, how can you be a gastro and not look at,
not know?
Anyway. Shall I answer this question about ovulation pain?
Yes.
So,
and actually,
any others?
Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to look up how, because I did something on this the other day as well, so I can hopefully help, but I need a minute. So while you're talking, I'll find
it. Question is, I get very painful ache for a couple of days around ovulation. I have been diagnosed with suspected endometriosis, though that's not been confirmed by laparoscopy, which I think could explain it, but none of my scans have shown anything wrong with my ovaries, and I was recently told by a doctor that endo wouldn't cause painful ovulation. Do you agree? And is there anything you would recommend for the pain? So absolutely, I do not agree. Endometriosis can 100% cause ovulation pain, and it might be that you have what has happened is on the scan your ovaries appeared okay, but actually on a laparoscopy, which is actually the only way, as you've rightly pointed out, you can diagnose endometriosis, they might find that there is either endometrioma or there are lesions that are attaching your ovary. It might be that they can't see the whole ovary. We think of the ovaries as round. You know, transvaginal scans cannot see them in their full kind of whatever I'm trying to say, you know what I mean? And so I would say that I absolutely think that is, because it's not, I mean, a little bit of pain around ovulation is common, and that's nothing unusual, but it sounds to me like you're getting this for a couple of days, which is not normal and not common. And I would definitely say it would good to investigate. And in terms of treatment, one thing you could try is castor oil packs. Is that what you were going to say, Kirsty? No,
I was going to say womb massage, which is
so womb massage and castor oil packs would be my go-to be honest.
And in the run up to, if you're not taking any supplements generally, in the run up to ovulation, you could take magnesium and B vitamins, because that's been shown to help reduce the pain, but it definitely needs investigating sort of a bit further, but keep pushing.
Yeah. And actually, if you, I don't know whether you're still on the call, but the fertility detective, if you're on Instagram, the fertility detective has just done a whole series. Oh, yeah. So go and follow. If you're not following her already, the fertility detective has done a whole series on endometriosis. And it's been fascinating because what she's highlighted is, as we know, is the diagnosis of endometriosis and the need to address it in terms of fertility, because you can't just kind of look at endometriosis in terms of the endometriosis like in the body. You've got to think of it as a whole body condition. So even if you have treatment for it, we can't go, okay, well, endometriosis sort of done and dusted, you're fine now. You've got to think about like the impact of it on egg quality, on your endometrium lining, on the level of inflammation across the whole of your body, like how that could be impacting your ability to conceive. So addressing that, as well as like the medical route, I think is really important.
Yeah, a really anti-inflammatory sort of Mediterranean style diet as well, really useful. Maybe consider an omega-3 fish oil as well, that might help. And yeah, just really get on the Mediterranean diet.
I would definitely be recommending some really specific one-to-one nutrition advice for that, because it is, you know, as we were just talking, weren't we, about a general, you know, what is a healthy diet? But I think for endo, it's definitely very specific, isn't it? It's more specific than a good diet. I mean, I think a good diet is a good sort of base, but I think there are things specific to address. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, because there are various schools of thoughts on endometriosis. Some people think it's sort of quite autoimmune as well. So there's that to take into consideration as well. And there's definitely things within your diet and nutrition that you can do to support that. Yeah, it's definitely something that can be. There's definitely things that can be done to improve the situation.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Chinese herbs actually as well. We've got quite a lot of people in clinic who take Chinese herbs and they respond really well.
Shall I ask you a question?
Oh, go on then. Yeah.
Do you do NHS discount?
Oh, we do. Well, we do discount in that we do a community clinic. So on a Monday, every other Monday, I run a low-cost community clinic where you can come for treatment with me on a sliding scale of starting at £30. So 30, 40 or £50 are the options. So yeah, we run that.
Awesome.
Can we increase follicles through nutrition?
I'm going to go with not directly. I think it's that whole approach again that we've discussed earlier. You have to sort of 3 months or more really concentrate on your nutrition.
Yeah.
But yeah, and doing the best that you can. But I don't think there's anything specifically that can be done unless you know anything that I've.
No, I would say it's, you know, increasing your follicles. It can absolutely happen. You can definitely change the environment. We had an amazing embryologist who came and spoke to us last night in our team meeting, and we were asking her this very question, and she was saying, yes, you can, but it's like, you know, you need to really be looking at all the things that we know can impact it. So we go back to sleep, diet, stress, a really nutrient rich environment where the follicles are, you know, growing in, and, you know, just kind of reducing your inflammation, water, being hydrated, all those basic things. And yes, it can have a difference. That is scientifically proven.
Yeah, definitely. But it is
not
just
one. I wish there was one thing, like if you...
I know. I wish there was one thing for progesterone, one thing for this.
Yeah.
Yes, I think no, it's just not that straightforward. But you can do so much to support yourself in all of these areas with good nutrition and lifestyle choices and stress reduction or stress management, let's say, and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah. But also, can we just say that, you know, we're not talking 100% of the time here?
God, no.
That then becomes a stress in itself.
Yeah,
We're talking, what's 80-20? Is
80-20 every time. Also, it's got to be sustainable, it's got to be manageable, it's got to fit into our already busy lives. Because like you say, it becomes a chore, it becomes a stress, and then it is another thing that you're worrying about. And no, 80-20 every time. If you also, I think you and I have discussed this probably quite a long time, when it gets to Friday night and you want to order a takeaway because you've had a busy week and you're knackered, that is self-care.
Yeah.
You know?
And that one takeaway is not going to be the thing, you know.
It's
if
not.
you've got the basics there, you know, if you've got a solid foundation of looking after yourself in a really good way, it's not going to make the blindest bit of difference.
We talked about this, I think, during the Christmas webinar as well, didn't we? It's what you're doing most of the time is that's important. It's not what you're doing some of the time. And I think you just need to take the pressure off of yourself.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, that doesn't help anything.
No. Someone's recommended a good vaginal probiotic. So Canis Flor, In Vivo, or Optivac. All ones. So the women's health ones specifically.
Optivac for women.
Then we've got another one about foods to boost progesterone. She gets spotting. So I think we've covered that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Did you have one on email as well?
I did. And I also had one message to me today on my Instagram about egg and sperm health. But I think we've pretty much covered that with all the general food bits and pieces. But sperm health also go hard on the antioxidants, particularly berries, nuts, seeds, that kind of thing. They're really good. Let me find my emails.
Did someone ask about frozen embryo transfer? How to prepare for a frozen embryo transfer?
Yes.
Was that your email?
Yeah, it was. Hold on. What supplements, vitamins should you take for a frozen embryo transfer? We talked about this last night, didn't we? Or have I?
I think we talked about
it this morning. It's all going into one.
All we talk about. It's literally all we talk about.
It's just one big conversation about fertility.
This is our life.
Yeah. We have changed, I'll just say that. Okay, so it is exciting though. So frozen embryo transfer, I think the nutrition is much the same as I will always say, really. And no specific supplements. You want to already be on a good preconception supplement anyway. You want to be making sure you're hydrated. The work has already been done, really, hasn't it? Which I think, which is, you know, with the egg and if it's frozen, it's all that's been taken away from you. So you sort of just need to really concentrate on looking after yourself, really, at that juncture.
Especially if you're doing a medicated, you know, if you're doing a medicated round. So, you know, sometimes people do a natural round where they use their own hormones. And that, you know, if you're doing a natural round, I would say, you know, really, I'm not saying in either way, don't look after yourself, but I'm saying, you know, keeping a balance is good. But interestingly, I saw a lovely client this morning who was saying before her frozen transfer, in the cycle, you know, she'd been so good for a long time, like she had really you know, gone for it. She was like well, the job is done. So she kind of like, you know, had a drink, not while she was actually doing, but the round before she was prepping, she was like, had a drink, you know, kind of like really let herself go, because she was like, I just had spent so long on this train of not drinking, not, you know, drinking coffee, all that kind of stuff, that I let myself go. And you know, she was 22 weeks pregnant when she came in this morning. So if you're on, you know, you're in many ways, when you're doing a medicated round of a frozen embryo transfer, you're taking estrogen, you're taking progesterone, the estrogen's building your lining, progesterone's holding it. In many ways, like, it's about managing your mind and looking after yourself when you go through that process, I would say, are the most important things. And Nicole, hello Nicole, lovely to see you. She has asked, can you please advise of the most accessible way people can get their sperm DNA fragmentation checked? Yes, so I recommend that people go through Andrology Solutions, which they're based in London, but you can they do online appointments, so you can access them online and they can refer you for a DNA fragmentation test. I know the company that I use is called the Comet Test, and it looks to me like they are setting up more centres around the country where you can go and do it directly with them, but I'm not sure how far they've got with that yet. So what you can do is go through Andrology Solutions and they will refer you for a DNA fragmentation test. So that's the route that we are using in our clinic. What do you do, Kirsty? Do you do DNA?
Yeah, the same, really.
So Andrology Solutions, yeah. Okay. Blimey, we've nearly done an hour.
We have. Doesn't feel like it actually. It's flown by, hasn't it?
Yeah. If anybody, I really hope I've recorded it. Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
If
The whole thing again.
That's like recording the podcast, you know, like there's been a number of times where we've recorded it and I'm like, oh no, I didn't press record. If you, oh, hang on, there's a question coming in.
Oh,
Please, can I ask about day?
went again then.
Please, can I ask about day 21 progesterone level blood tests? I actually had my blood drawn on cycle day 20 as they had no appointments on day 21. I was told the results were normal as it was over 30. Great. When I next had a follow-up appointment, I asked what it was and they told me 38 and this was fine. But it has worried me and been on my mind that it isn't very much over 30. Please don't worry, because over 30 is the marker to confirm that you have ovulated. Okay, so you have definitely ovulated. And the thing about progesterone is it does this in the body all the time. Every second of every day, it's going up and down. And what you've got is clear signs that it's over 30. So it means that it's a good sustainable level for holding your uterus lining in place. So I would say if you've got this, in combination with no spotting before your period comes, or, you know, if you get spotting, it's like for a day or something. You've got no spottings. If you're taking your BBT is not dropping quickly. You're not getting any mid-cycle spotting. I would say that, you know, if you've got a good luteal phase, and also that your luteal phase is over 12 days. So if it's from ovulation to when your period comes, is over 12 days, then that is a good luteal phase. And I would say, you know, try not to be concerned about it, because you've literally ticked every box. Like there's nothing else I could add to that. So I hope that gives you some reassurance. Okay. Well, Kirsty, thank you so much for your time. I've seen your lovely face 3 times in the last 24 hours.
I know. How exciting for you. Thank you very much for having me on.
Okay.
It's been good and hopefully helpful.
Yes, you're very welcome. I'm glad it's been reassuring. And we are putting this up, if you've got in the Facebook group tomorrow, but if you've got any questions as a result of this, if you're watching this on playback, then please direct message myself or Kirsty, put it in the Facebook group. We're happy to have a chat about it. And yeah, thanks for watching. All right, my lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.